Hello everyone, welcome back to the world headquarters of Airline Videos Live. I'm your plane jockey, Kevin. Hope you guys are all having a great week. It is Friday. Oh yeah, taking you into the weekend. We'll be back with the live stream back at LAX. That will be the big Sunday show on Sunday. Until then, we have a special live broadcast with a special guest, live guest. That means all of you at home can be involved in the chat as well. Thanks you guys for tuning in. All right, who is that special guest? Well, Noel Philips. Noel, hello. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's nice.
Now, Noel, if there's anybody watching here today and may not know exactly who you are, I think pretty much everyone knows who you are. You're a pretty big YouTuber here in the aviation space, right?
And I've got a few people who, for some reason, watch my videos. Yes,
just a few.
A few. Yeah, so I'm an aviation YouTuber, or travel and aviation. Somebody actually said to me the other day it's more transport now because I started to do things like trains and buses, but aviation is my main focus. And I travel around the world making silly videos, flying on the world's craziest airlines and just doing all manner of crazy aviation-based activities.
Crazy aviation activities. Can you kind of give us a sample of what some of those crazy aviation activities might be?
So, well, I suppose one of the bigger ones I did was I flew around the world in 80 hours using only low-cost airlines. That's the sort of thing. I do little challenges like that. I've just got back from a trip where I fly from the world's most southerly to the world's most northerly airports as well. All sorts of stuff like that, really. Combined as well with just flying on random flights in different parts of the world, flying to little African villages, for instance, on beaten up old planes, or flying across the Amazon on something that looks like it's going to be falling apart, just things like that maybe other people don't want to do, but I just get such a kick out of doing it, so I figured why not make videos about it and let everybody else watch it as well.
Excellent. We set this all up an hour before today, and of course everything goes well until we actually go live. Apparently our audio is choppy. So instead of getting deep into this, Noel, I think we're going to reset and then pop back up. Let's make sure we get because this is all about audio. We want to make sure we're able to hear both you and I. Apparently it's on my side and your side. So stay tuned, everyone. Just hold on. We will do a complete reset and we will be right back up. All right, Noah, stay right there. All right. I think we are back. Hello, welcome back. Sorry for that little tech issue. Live TV, you all know all too well. It just takes one little thing to basically throw everything down to the ground. But thanks you guys for holding on. We are back. Noel Philips joining us live from Texas. Now, Noel, you originally from the UK. Tell us about your background. I mean, I asked you earlier, your aviation bug happened at a young age. Kind of give us a little history on your aviation life.
All right, so I am, well observed. I'm from the UK. I'm British. I'm not from over here. I'm a foreigner. I'm an immigrant, if you want to say that. I started off, I guess, at the age of 11 was when I fell in love with aviation. I took a flight. My school did an exchange visit at the time, crazily enough, between the UK and Russia. And I ended up going to Moscow right at the fall of the Soviet Union, which is just, looking back at it, I'm like, what were they thinking, sending a group of 11-year-olds to the Soviet Union just after it's broken up? But anyway, but I wasn't looking forward to that element. I was looking forward to going on the plane because I'd never been on a plane in my life, and I didn't know what it was going to be like. I just went along, and I remember being absolutely scared as anything as we took off from Heathrow Airport on that British Airways flight over to Moscow.
What was it?
it was a 767, and it was a brand new one. It was like 2 months old at the time, and it's crazy. And now I'm looking back thinking, I wish they'd have sent us on Aeroflot, because they were sending like Ilyushins and all sorts of crazy things in there. But no, they didn't want to risk it, so they put us on BA and flew us over there on BA. And yeah, I just remember after we'd taken off, they invited us up to the flight deck, which you could obviously do back then in the early 90s. And I just remember walking into the flight deck and seeing like all the cockpit all lit up and everything, and they were showing us all the different bits and pieces. And it was just that moment, I think, was the moment that cemented. Yeah, I think so. And then we landed in Moscow, and at the end of that flight, and the planes that were there obviously were parked up with Russian writing down the side of them, looking like really weird looking planes with like the glass noses and everything. Right. Aeroflot logos and the CCCP registrations on them. And it was just crazy. I remember just looking at them like thinking, this is incredible. Aviation in the UK, obviously compared to in Russia, the difference there, seeing all these really random planes parked up, it just sort of sparked something. And that was it, really. That was the start. That was a start, yeah.
So you have a pretty successful YouTube channel going on. And like you said before our little break, I mean, you kind of, live on the edge? Is that a right way to say it in your videos in the terms of taking certain airlines or certain airplanes or going to certain places? I mean, you're kind of living on the edge, right?
So sometimes, sometimes it gets a little bit sketchy. And but the thing is, part of me doing it and flying on some of these crazy airlines is that I look at it and I think, well, actually, you fly on them and really nothing is that different to flying on airlines over here or airlines in Europe. And you get to the point where you're like, even in the most crazy of places, aviation is pretty much aviation. Nobody wants anything to go wrong. The planes are still pretty much maintained, despite the fact they might be falling to pieces by the looks of it. Actually, they're still airworthy and they're still flying. And I don't know, maybe that's just naivety on my part. Maybe I just try and like forget about that side of things when I'm flying on them. But I just, part of it for me is you fly on all these planes and you just realize that actually it's aviation, where regardless of where you are in the world, regardless of how old the planes were, and if, at the end of the day, some of these planes are 50 or 60 years old, they're still flying now. So they can't be doing much wrong if they're still able to fly them now.
That's true. I mean, I look at some of your videos and I'm like, oh boy, I don't know if I would step on that plane, but I think you're right in the overall, I mean, obviously there's no money involved in any of these airplanes. No one wants anything to go wrong. So they're going to take care of them the best they can. Now, you not just do aviation. One of at least the one video that comes to my mind just stands out. And I was laughing. I was along with you for the ride, was the Greyhound bus tour.
Oh, gosh, yes.
I mean, do you get a lot of people asking you about the Greyhound bus tour?
It is I think it's one of my most popular videos, crazily, for a channel that's based around aviation. The Greyhound video is kind of the biggest video I've ever done. But yeah, people love it. And honestly, I love it. And I think that's the thing. I watch that video back even now. It's one of the few videos I can watch back and actually enjoy it and laugh at it, because it's just the things that happened on that bus over the course of that week were just crazy. It really is. You couldn't write it. It was just that funny,
Plans to do another Greyhound bus tour?
Well, you know what? Funny you should say that. Not on Greyhound. I've just come back from South America and Africa. And one of the, I'll give you a sneak preview of a video that's coming up. I've just filmed a bus ride that I took, and it's the world's longest bus route. Oh boy. And it's a 6-day bus route from Lima in Peru, right the way across South America to Rio in Brazil. And 6 days I was on that bus. It was just insane, over the Andes, across the deserts of Peru, across the Amazon rainforest. I will admit it wasn't quite as entertaining, I guess, with everything that was going on as the Greyhound was, but it was still just incredibly, it was a tough video to film. But honestly, I look back at it and I'm like, that was incredible to be able to see all those things and just ride that one bus all the way across South America. So that's, I think I'm going to have to, unfortunately, do something like this relatively often, because people seem to like them. So, we're going to have to do...
No extreme drama on this bus tour?
There was a bit. We got to a city in Brazil, and the thing is, in Lima, in Peru, and in Brazil, in the parts of the countries that I was in, at least, people don't speak a word of English, which is understandable. You're not in an English-speaking country. So we arrived one night into a city in Brazil, in kind of right in the western side of Brazil, at sort of 7, 8 o'clock at night, and what they usually do on this bus, as I'd learned by this point, is they let you stay on the bus if you wanted to at the different stops. But at this one, they made you get off the bus. And I was like, oh, God, here we go. This is another Greyhound. So I got off the bus. The bus drove off to be serviced, which is where I'm thinking this really is another Greyhound.
Oh, boy.
And then another bus turned up and just, I don't know what was going on. They were just like, everybody on this bus, everybody on this bus. And it just drove everybody across to the other side of town to this random gas station where it just dumped everybody off and drove off. So everyone's like standing at the side of the road, like, what is going on? And as it turned out, they got another bus to move us to somewhere else while they went and sent the other bus off to be cleaned and everything. And it was like, oh, for goodness sake. But it was just crazy because you're in Brazil and it's like, it felt quite dangerous as well. You know, you're in a little city in Brazil. There's police cars going backwards and forwards, and you're just standing there. Like, I stand out like a sore thumb standing on the side of this road, and you just it was a little bit crazy, but it all worked out in the end.
I mean, one of the questions I always have, and it kind of goes with all of you guys, that I mean, you're in other countries, you're dealing with multiple airlines in other countries. How do most people, because you're filming, you got the cameras out. I mean, what your camera setup, are you kind of hiding it? It's not in everyone's face. Is it GoPros here and there? What's the reaction? I guess my question is, what's the reaction to most people at the airport or on the bus or wherever you might be? Is it most people aren't really paying attention to what you're doing, or do you kind of get some feedback and say, hey, where's that camera pointed?
That really depends on where I am actually filming in the world. For the most part, the thing I learned very early on is that nobody actually cares what you do. People just kind of walk past you. You might get people looking at you going, oh, that guy's making a video, whatever. and that's kind of it. Some places you go in the world, it's a lot more touchy, either because they don't want you filming in airports, for example, or because, like when I did the bus trip in South America, it could be quite dangerous. I mean, I'm trying to hide the camera in one of the bus stations I'm in because I'm just like, I could get this robbed off me if I'm not careful. And in fact, at one point, I literally just after the bus, I was getting a flight out of Rio airport, and I walked, the Uber dropped me off, and I was walking to the front, and I put my camera in my bag at the side of me, not thinking, doing what I normally do, just put it into the pocket at the side of my bag. And as I walked along, these two guys came up to me and they started shouting something in Portuguese, and they were pointing at my feet and they're going, "No, look, 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 look." And I was like, okay, I'm just going to ignore you and walk straight past you. And then I walked into the airport and I thought, hang on a minute, they were trying to distract me potentially so they could just grab something off me or whatever. And that's when you've got to be a little bit more careful. And I think sometimes I'm guilty of just being too like naive. Everybody's friendly, everybody's nice.
How many cameras do you
always
but how many cameras do you carry extra cameras with you in case something does happen along the way? You don't want to be in South America and all of a sudden you lost your camera. I would assume you maybe have a second or a third in reserve.
Yeah, and I've got I use 3 cameras normally when I'm filming. I've got the one that I have on like a selfie stick that I do the face-to-face cameras with. That's a DJI camera. I've got the same one on my little backpack here that films as I'm walking around. That kind of comes on as I'm boarding the plane and stuff, so you can get a shot of me like boarding the plane. And then I film a lot on my iPhone as well. And really, to be honest, the biggest issue is not so much about the cameras, because I just think, well, if I lose a camera, that's okay from that point of view. I've got another one, I've got my phone or whatever to carry on. The biggest issue for me is the footage that's on that camera. Right. That's the bit that I'm not going to get back, especially at the end of a 6-day bus ride or after flying from the southerly to the most northerly airport. Like that footage is irreplaceable at that point. So I kind of get quite paranoid, and literally every hotel room you'll find me just getting into my hotel, collapsing on the bed and just copying all the footage off straight away, or in an airport lounge somewhere and just like backups of backups of backups constantly, as I'm sure this is for you as well.
I was going to say, I've been there, done that, been there, done that. Oh yeah, absolutely. A copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. You never be too safe.
Yeah.
So you're on the road. How many days a year would you say you're out and about filming, traveling?
So I tend to do my trips that I take are generally about 2 to 3 weeks long. We've been kind of trending towards longer trips as we've got like more recently, because we find that with the longer trips, it gets me more opportunities to film stuff in different places. If there's a flight that goes once a week, if I'm on a 3-week trip, there's more chance of me being able to slot that in. So I tend to do like a 3-week trip at the minute, and I will do one every sort of 3 or 4 months. I mean, if you work it out, I release once a week, so that's 52 videos a year that I've got to film. So generally speaking, each trip will get me probably 12 videos, maybe more, maybe less. This last one, it was a 3-week trip. I only managed to get 8 videos out of it, but of those 8 videos, I feel that 3 of them are absolutely amazing videos. So I'm not, I'm tending to go more down the line of getting quality over quantity, because for so long I've just been at the point where I've just been filming just everything, and then some of it works, some of it doesn't, and I think I need to get more into that kind of, we need to pick and choose the best bits and just give people the best bits now. But yeah, sorry, I'm diversing from the question a bit.
No. This is open-ended. Go on as far as you want to go with any question. I mean, my question is, you're saying I only got 8 videos out of this. Obviously, when you set everything up, you say, I know I'm going to be traveling here. I'm going to be flying in this airline and doing this. Do you kind of go into every trip with kind of an outline in your head saying, I've got to get this, or I've got to get this? Or are you just going with the flow? Whatever happens, kind of happens?
Yeah, I plan my videos before I go. I plan the trip around the videos I want to film. And sometimes, like with this one, there's a few flights on this trip that I've just taken that I filmed, and I'm just like, actually nothing really exciting happened on that.
Yeah.
There was a few that I'd planned, that set out to film before I left, and then as I was out and about, I was thinking, hang on a minute, that's not going to work. It's just dull. It's nobody wants to watch. I think like one of the ones I was planning was to do a video, like a review of SAS, Scandinavian Airlines. They have like this business class, they call it, but it really isn't. It's just a standard economy seat. The only thing is that you get like a bag of crisps on the flight. And I was going to do a whole video around that, and then I was like, hang on a minute, nobody is that bothered about that, and also it was going to come across as complaining or whatever. I thought no, so I just thought, well, that video, I'll just scrap that one. I skipped a couple on this one. I was supposed to fly Air China over to LAX on this trip, but I ended up getting caught on an island in the middle of the Atlantic for an extra day, so I managed to miss that on an
island.
Yeah, I flew to St. Helena, which is a little island in the middle of the South Atlantic. This was literally just this last weekend, and I flew out there, and there's one flight a week out to this island, and on the day that I was supposed to fly back, they ended up having to cancel the flight because the weather was bad. So I ended up staying an extra 24 hours in St. Helena in the middle of the South Atlantic, but that meant I missed my Air China flight. And then I just thought to myself, well, there's a reason for that happening. Everything has a reason behind it at the end of the day, and the reason for this is that I need to get home. So I just literally, a lot of the flights I book are all usually flexible, so I was able to just cancel it, get a refund, and I booked on United, and I flew non-stop back to New York from Joburg. Which was much nicer. I didn't film it. I just got on the plane, slept, and drank, and ate, and that was it.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to do that. You just gotta just live in the moment, right? No cameras rolling. Totally understand that. So when you get back from these trips, do you edit all these yourself? You produce them yourself?
I do.
We all know about editing. That takes a really long time. So how do you find the time to basically sit down, produce these on a weekly basis on top of that, on top of trying to decide what am I going to do next? There's a lot going on, right?
There is. I did have an editor at one point. I had a couple of editors over the years I've been doing this. Amazing guys, and they do amazing work. The editors I had were fantastic, but there was still, you end up watching the videos back, and eventually you get to the point where, hang on a minute, these guys aren't living this video as I would like to see it. I'm very much a control freak of a person. I like to be able to like control everything. If I film a video with something in my mind, I want to have that reflected in the edit. So the only option really is for me is to edit them myself. And maybe I could find an editor that would get me and be able to do that. But to be honest, I find that I have much more success with doing it myself and just editing it on the fly. Though each video generally takes me about a day to edit. I sit and I edit it. I come in here into my office and just sit and edit it over the course of about a day usually. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's longer, depending on the video. I mean, some of these 6-day videos, you've got like hours of footage to try and condense down. But yeah, and that's that. And the way that my brain works is I am very much a kind of person who focuses on one thing at a time, and I kind of focus on that one thing to the nth degree. So maybe one day I'll wake up and I'll be in a mood where I just want to book flights and I just want to plan travel, and that's fine. And I'll just use those days to do that, and then push the editing back. And maybe I'll wake up in a creative mood, and then I'll be like, right, we'll edit today. Maybe another day I'll wake up and I'll be like, I'm in a creative mood, but I don't want to be happy and talking onto a microphone or whatever all day doing my voiceover. So, all right, well, let's do some thumbnail design today or something. And it just tends to work. I don't really know how I do it. My brain just focuses on one thing at a time, and that's.
I hear you. I think that's just life as a YouTuber. We kind of can do our own thing. Whatever works at this moment, do it. If it doesn't, put it off to the side and come back to it later, right?
Absolutely. And there's days where I'll be in here editing until 11 o'clock at night, just working. And then there's other days where I just don't want to do anything and I can't be bothered with anything. But that's fine as well. I'll just have that day off and we'll go and do something, and we'll, I don't know, go out as a family or something like that, or go flying or something. And just, it doesn't matter really.
All right, so we do have a live audience, everyone tuning in. I want to get to some of the questions real quick. Lee Howard. Well, Lee Howard. There you are, Lee Howard. Says, hello, Noel. When was your last time you went on a Boeing 747?
Last week.
Last week?
Last week, I flew Lufthansa. Their 747-8. That was, it's still a 747, isn't it? It's a newer one. But yeah, I flew from Buenos Aires to Frankfurt on Lufthansa, and it was in first class, and it was very nice.
Very nice.
Very fancy. In terms of 747-400s, I guess, which is the other one, I think I've not flown on one of those since maybe BA. I think British Airways, just before they retired them.
Yeah.
That was about the last time I flew on a 747-400, I think. But yeah, the 8s, I've flown a couple of Lufthansas, but amazing aircraft. It's nice sitting upstairs. You get the novelty factor, but I actually quite prefer sitting in the nose downstairs. The first class, not just because it's in first class, but it's such a crazy experience. Because not only are you sitting in front of where the pilots sit, because the nose obviously sticks out so far, but because the aircraft points in like this, you're looking out of the window straight down the runway as you take off. So you get that really crazy view of straight down the runway as you're taking off. And it's silent. It's absolutely silent. It's like when you watch a movie and they're on a private jet and they're just having a normal conversation. It's kind of like that. It's just so quiet. It's eerie. It's amazing. It's a really nice plane.
Excellent. 757 Chip says, hello, Noel, from another transplant to Texas. If you ever fly into McGregor Executive Airport, I'd like to treat you to a meal at the famous coffee shop in McGregor.
Oh, nice.
Does that sound familiar?
Thank you. Yeah. Actually, I think, I was looking at going over that way today, I think, because I flew this morning. I went over to Waco, which I don't think is a million miles from there. My Texas geography is not quite there yet, but I will definitely. Yeah, I'd love that. I like my coffee, and flying for coffee, there's nothing better, is there?
Yeah, I was asking you earlier about barbecue there in Dallas. And of course, believe it or not, I always talk about Hard 8 barbecue. Noel has yet to go to the Hard 8 barbecue, so we got to get Noel over. Oh, you've been to Buc-ee's, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. You can't do a road trip in Texas without going to Buc-ee's, and their brisket sandwiches are just absolutely the best.
Excellent. All right. One more, Anna, the dispatcher, the $2 super chat. Thanks so much, Anna. Says, love the license plate. Oh, yes, the Texas plate.
Southwest wingtip there as well. Southwest wingtip in your picture there. But yeah, Fly SWA. Yeah, that was actually owned. There's a story behind that. I picked it up from a enthusiast convention, and they do like the shows where you can go and buy all bits and pieces of memorabilia, and that was owned by the marketing director of Southwest Airlines. Apparently, it was their number plate. So yeah, that's the story behind that one.
People ask me this all the time, so of course I have to ask you as well. 2 questions: favorite airline and favorite aircraft. It's just the most asked question ever for us.
So, favorite airline worldwide, I have to say probably Qatar Airways. It's always been my favorite since I started flying with them a few years ago. And it doesn't make any sense because they're not in an alliance that I'm kind of linked to anymore. So I don't get to fly with them as much as I should. But they're a great airline, really. And in terms of aircraft as well, I am a huge A350 fan. It is between that and the A380, but I think the A350 just has the edge because it's kind of newer and it's just an absolutely beautiful aircraft outside and in as well. So yeah.
What about the 787? You like that? No.
Yes, I do. I do to a degree. It's a nice plane, and when they were new, they were really nice.
Yeah.
But they seem to be getting really long in the tooth now, and you fly on some of them and they look really tired. I hate the windows on the 787. It really drives me insane.
I was just going to ask you about the windows. I always joke and say, 787, you had me at the window. I think that's the best part of the whole aircraft. Really, you don't like the windows?
I don't. I like the fact that you can just I think it's pretty cool. It was really cool when it first came out, and it is a cool design. But what I don't like is the fact that the cabin crew will just flick a switch and make everybody's windows go black, and you have no control over that. It really frustrates me. And I know some of the A350s have got that technology in them now as well, the newer ones, and it's horrible for me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a control freak. I like to be able to just crack the window a bit and take a picture out of the window. Apparently, there is a way you can override it. Somebody commented on a video of mine once and said, yeah, there is some... don't ask me what it is because I've never tried it, but there's some way that you can, like, as it's dimming while they do it, you can hold a combination of buttons or something and it stops them from being able to control it. But apparently then the problem is that it locks it open for the whole flight. So while the cabin's in darkness, you've got the only window open.
Oh boy.
You could get into trouble. That's why I've never done it. I'm just like,
oh my gosh.
If you're cabin crew though, let me know because I'd have to try it one day.
That Maybe is not interesting. Yeah, I would love to find out what that combination is. Oh my gosh. All right. Now that we've asked those 2 questions out of the way, the biggest question to me is, out of how many trips you've taken? So you gave me a number earlier. It was about 1,200 flights.
Yeah. 1,255 now. My system says 53, but I've taken 2 flights today that I've not added to it yet. But yeah, 1,255 flights.
And what year is that? That started in what year?
92, but then actually
92.
That was I didn't fly them between 92 and 98, so really that's kind of effectively since 98 I've taken 1,200 flights. Most of those have been since I went full-time doing YouTube. Really, my graph kind of goes like that in 2019 and stays there, really.
Is there one flight out of that 1,200 that if I were to ask you what was the most memorable flight in terms of craziness or just something that may have happened or just a great flight, is there something that just pops in your mind that says this is number 1 on the list for sure?
Yeah, I think in terms of the craziness aspect of it, there's a couple. There's an airline in Tanzania I flew with, and that was on an old Embraer 120. And this was only a couple of years ago. They're still flying it. It was literally falling to pieces. Inside the cabin, there's like panels missing and everything. The seat collapsed at the side of me. The poor guy sat on it. When he came to sit down and fell through the seats, it was quite funny, really. But I couldn't really laugh at the time. But and it was just crazy. And we flew across Tanzania to a place called Arusha, which is a little town. in the middle of nowhere. I landed there, got taken to a market where I bought like the most African shirt possible because they managed to sell me this really African shirt, with like elephants and everything on it that worked. It was crazy. And then on the flight back, we just landed randomly at Zanzibar, and then everybody just got off the plane. And there was just me sitting on the plane, and I'm thinking, okay, this is weird. Where is everybody? And then kind of an hour later, this dispatcher or somebody puts his head on the plane and said, come. I was like, okay. So I went with him, and he just loaded me into the back of another plane. And I was like, okay,
wow.
what is going on? And they put me on a Cessna Caravan, and literally the engine was already running, and they just piled me into the back of it, shut the door. I had to find somewhere to sit. And we just took off, and as it would turn out, I mean, they ended up taking me where I was going, but nobody had communicated anything. And it was just that moment where you're just getting bundled onto a random plane, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? But
wow. I mean, is there an airline you have yet to fly on at this point with over 1,200 flights?
Many airlines I'm yet to fly on. Too many, but yeah, I'm trying to think of any airline that I really want to fly on. I mean, my ultimate bucket list item is to go to North Korea and fly on Air Koryo. It's been on top of my bucket list for so many years. I had it planned. I was going to fly there in 2020 on one of these tours, and then obviously COVID happened, and I couldn't get there, and they shut the borders for so many years. And now we live in America. I don't think I'll ever get to do that because with the visa and everything, they don't tend to like you go into North Korea. So yeah, I think maybe at some point we'll get there once we're kind of more permanently settled here. It might be somewhere that we'd look at doing, but at the minute that's off the cards, unfortunately. I'd like to do a lot of the Chinese airlines as well in that neck of the woods, because I did one flight. I was so nervous about flying on a Chinese airline, obviously after the whole pandemic, and you're thinking, what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. What's it going to be like when you get there? And I flew China Eastern, and it was incredible. It was so not what I expected at all. I was kind of I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe you just think it's not going to be as good as it is. And I got on this plane, and it was just amazing. The service that you got on this airline was fantastic. So yeah, I do want to fly a lot more in China, I think, and do a lot more over there.
I think a lot of people asking, so you're originally from the UK. What brought you to the US? Was it, I asked you earlier, I mean, was it opportunities just to travel a little bit more here in the US?
That as well. Like many people living in the UK and growing up, you grow up with American culture kind of ingrained into you as you get older. And as children, you literally, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but for me and my wife, certainly, we grew up wanting to move to America. It was always the dream. We wanted to live in America and do the American thing and just live there and just experience it. And for so many years, we just figured we'd never be able to do that, because getting visas for America is one of the toughest places in the world to be able to immigrate to. And for us, it was just always off the cards, really. We looked at one point at moving to Australia because I got offered a job over there, and then for whatever reason that didn't happen. And it just eventually we got to the point, and it was during the pandemic, my wife said to me, look, we ought to look at moving to the US. I said, well, we can't. We know we can't do this. And we had a discussion. And the way, obviously at the time, Europe and the UK was in complete lockdown for so long. And we were at the point where it was like, we need to, if it's now or never, we need to look at doing this move to the US. And she spoke to an immigration company and said, look, there's probably no chance of us being able to move, but can we? And they were like, well, you will run your own business, don't you? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, right, well, yeah, you can. It's dead easy. You just do this, and then you can move over. And we're like, what? Why have we not known this before? And we did. We went through the process, the visa process, and we got given our 5-year visas initially. We're on, which we can renew. We can keep renewing them. But we're actually in the process of applying for our green cards at the minute. So the plan is to make it permanent over here and stick around.
There you go.
What we want. We love it here. We've been, since we moved here, we've been treated. We live in Texas, and from the moment we arrived, we were treated like Texans by everybody. It was like we've never been anywhere else, and people just are so like they're so welcoming to us here.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's like a feeling that, I mean, I love the UK. I grew up, I spent most of my life in the UK. It's a feeling that you never really got over there. Whereas here, you tell people what you do. You say I'm a YouTuber, and they're like, "That's amazing! How does that work? And how does this work?" And in the UK, you mention it, and it's more kind of like, "Oh, well, you know."
Yeah.
People don't really care, and people aren't really that happy for you. There's a little bit of kind of disdain a lot of the time, and a lot of jealousy about it. Whereas here, it's completely the opposite. And they're like, "Well, that's unique. Never heard of that. Tell me all about it." And like, it's just worlds apart, really. And the opportunities we've had here have been incredible as well for us and the children with what they've been doing. I haven't looked back since we've lived here, honestly.
I mean, where does the channel go from here? I mean, one of my questions was, I mean, you travel so much and all that. I mean, how do you balance the excitement of all that travel with the constant flying, the constant knowing, you know, as a YouTuber, you know, it can be a little stressful because you know that you have to publish. You're a weekly publisher, basically. So you kind of have that stress level kind of hanging over you. How do you balance the challenges of all that and still enjoy traveling at the same time?
Well, I tell you what, if you ever find out, then let me know, because I've still never managed to figure that one out. Yeah, you're right. There's stress involved. People a lot of the time think that what I do is easy. They're like, you just get on planes and fly first class all over the world. And yeah, that's the fun part of the job that you get to see in the videos. What you don't get to see is the 18-hour days that we have to put in 7 days a week to be able to keep this thing going, the editing, the constant releasing. And honestly, it got to a point where I felt, especially after we'd moved over here, because in my mind, the videos that I put out every week is what's keeping us in this house. It's what's keeping us here in America. Mm-hmm. It's what's keeping the kids where they are. And without those videos, we're nothing. And you know, and it got to a point where I got really depressed about it. I was like, it was seriously taking a toll on my mental health at the time. Mm-hmm. And I kind of ended up getting to this point where I sat and did the maths. I said earlier, I'm a very analytical person. I see things in black and white, and I sat down and I did the maths, and I worked out that, you know what, even if we reduced our amount of videos down to once every 2 weeks, or even like once every 3 weeks, that's fine. Our income would go down slightly, but it's not going to be, do you know what I mean? Because as the channel grows bigger, the whole channel is what it is that's earning for you. It's not just that one video that you're releasing. So it kind of, and I got to them, and I think knowing the fact that I could actually potentially just take a break and it will be okay. That I don't intend to. I don't want to take a break, and I don't want to start reducing how many videos I put out. But at least having that knowledge in my head that I could do that and it would still be okay for me, it eases my pressure so much. It really does.
So I guess the question is, the channel moving forward, are you just continuing at the same rate that you're pretty much going now, or are you going to venture off and do a Buc-ee's tour?
Yeah, I actually, if I'm completely honest, I'm not sure at the minute what's going to happen going forward. I do need to start slowing down a little bit, and well, not necessarily in terms of the output, but at least in terms of the videos that I'm making. I need to do something a bit different, maybe work smarter with that. I've been seriously ill 3 times this year, all of them after trips. I had COVID. I ended up fracturing my rib on a trip, which I'm still getting over now, and then I caught pneumonia on my last big trip before this one, and had to be flown home. And I just got to the point where I thought, I'm working myself too hard. I mean, in the week I got pneumonia, I'd done 4 transatlantic flights in 3 days that week. Just crazy. I'd gone across there, I'd come back, and I'd gone across again, and I'd come back, and it was like, and you still get to the point where you think, that's what's exhausting me, you know? And I need to just either start planning the trips. But what I'd really like to do going forward is say, right, let's just focus on doing, I don't know, luxury flights, and we'll do some really like what Trek Trendy does or what Jeb does, things like that. You know, more kind of let's just review the flights rather than just trying to push myself constantly to do these crazy trips. If I'm honest, if the channel's going to go in any direction, that's probably the direction it might go. But then I've got to balance that with the fact that actually I quite like what I do, and I quite like doing some of these crazy things as well. So
I was going to say, do you think you're kind of known at this point for just the the crazy stories that you come across?
I think so, and it's brilliant in one way, but in another way, it's kind of like, well, that means I have to keep doing that. But no, I love doing it, I really do, and it brings me so much joy to be able to do these really cool things.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've just done this most southerly to the most northerly airport. That's just every aviation geek has something like that in their head that they want to try doing, and I got to do it for real. You know, I've flying around the world on low-cost airlines, but I got to do that for real, and just focusing on those really cool things that that you get to do, I think really helps.
Is there an airline that you at this point would say never again? Never.
Oh, many.
Okay, not just one. Long list.
Not just one. Many airlines. Air Algerie were one that were just awful. Some of the African airlines are like that. Kazakhstan, SCAT Airlines in Kazakhstan, I've flown with them like 3 times now, and they're just as bad every time. The thing is, I fly with so many airlines. I'm quite fortunate in that regard, and I look at them and I think, well, actually, they're not too bad to fly on. But then I have to put my hat on of would I like to see my family flying on that airline?
Right.
And would I trust them with my family's lives? And then I'm like, actually, maybe not. And then that kind of starts narrowing down the good airlines to like the well-known airlines.
What do you think of the U.S. aviation world? We have the Spirits of the world, Frontier, Southwest, then the majors. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, it's certainly different over here. And I think the thing in the US, from my perspective, I've been flown all over the world, I find that American carriers in general, despite the bad name that they might have, I think they're some of the best in the world. Even the low-cost airlines are. Yeah, they penny pinch you for everything. Of course they do. But you go to Europe and you look at Wizz Air and Ryanair, and they are 10 times worse than flying on Spirit or Frontier.
Yeah.
The Americans generally, in my experience, have quite a high expectation of what their airlines are going to be like. They've never really had crap airlines to have to worry about. They've always been treated quite well by them. So they expect that high level of service. And okay, it might not be perfect in every regard, but I still think it's so much better than much of the rest of the world.
Interesting. Do you have a favorite American airline? Is there one that kind of your go-to? Maybe they're in Dallas, would be American?
Well, I'm in Houston, so it's
Houston.
United.
Why did I think you were in Dallas? Okay, Houston.
Yeah, we're down in Houston. We're in the sweaty bit.
Oh boy!
But no. So yeah, I have two. Yeah, in answer to your question, I have my favorite airline, and then I have the one that I'm stuck with. And Delta are actually my favorite, if I'm honest. They are just an amazing airline. United are the one that I'm stuck with, and they can be amazing. They can also be pretty bad, but for the most part they're pretty decent. And I've just literally on this last trip got my Premier 1K status with United. That's how much I've flown them in the last year. So yeah,
nice.
I'm quite happy with that. But yeah, I fly with United a lot. To be honest, again, some of their planes are really nice. They're doing a lot of work to update them and putting like big massive TVs in them and stuff and bring everything right up to date. The newer planes they fly are just incredible. The older ones, not so much. If you get on an old 737 and they've got the little thermostat TV screens in the back of the seats, not quite the same, but they're making headway.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I was going to show, I was going to talk to you about this and everyone obviously watching Delta this week. Have you seen the news with Delta with the refresh of their cabin? Possibly, maybe getting a new livery. And we'll talk more about that. But hopefully you can see the video. Do you see that, Noel?
Yeah,
right?
that looks nice.
I mean,
that does look nice.
What do you think? I mean, what are your thoughts about this? Because, I mean, we're going from a very bright blue cabin to now kind of a dark-ish cabin. Kind of reminds me of the American Airlines cabin. What do you think?
I was just going to say it does look like a little bit American Airlines, doesn't it? Honestly, I think it looks nice. If I'm honest, I think it does look very smart. The blue is what's distinguished Delta, isn't it, over the years? I think, but I think also the blue is getting a bit tired now, and it's the seats. You know, they show their age quite a lot, even though they're still really nice for the most part. And that loo, that's a nice loo look, isn't it?
Very nice.
I'm getting attracted to the loo there with the. But no, I quite like that. I do quite like that, I have to say. And I love the concept that they go with as well. Delta already do it. United is starting to bring it in on the Neos. In first class, they've got that little bit of privacy around you as well.
Right.
In between the seats, which I think is just incredible. It's really good.
So you're okay with the... I mean, here's the one thing that kind of surprises me a little bit. The one thing about a Delta cabin right now is the blue mood lighting. Obviously, they're changing that now to a red. To me, red just doesn't give me the calmness as the blue does.
Yeah, it's a little bit kind of party clubbish, isn't it, really? I mean, look at those seats. They're nice.
Very nice, yeah. I've flown. I mean, I flew Virgin Atlantic once. I've flown them a few times, but I flew them once on their Dreamliner, and they'd got the cabin in this garish purple and red lighting as you walk down, and it was like you were in some sort of nightclub. And I'm like, I just want to get on this plane and sleep. You know, this isn't a party atmosphere, right?
Yeah, and I can see they've got like this little starry thing down the top. It's quite nice.
Yeah, that's on their A321 Neos. United has the exact same design. So apparently this is coming out in the fall on a 757, believe it or not, and an A350. So those are the two aircraft that are going to have this new cabin first. The one thing that stands out to me is that the blue is gone for the most part, and now it's back to black and red. Not only that, the widget is no longer to the side, it's straight up, just like it was back with the old Delta widget livery. So the question is, are we due for a new livery upgrade?
Possibly. I mean, they've had it a few years, haven't they? It's crazy to think. I still look at Delta and think that's an amazing brand new livery, but it's not brand new anymore.
No.
It's been out for a good sort of 10, 15 years now, maybe.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But I do love the Delta logo and the Delta livery rather, and it's one of my favorites. It just looks smart and it's timeless. It doesn't, it doesn't look old at all.
Right. Yeah. All right. We're going to get back to the super chats here real quick. Janet Jones, 43 with the $5 super chat. Thanks so much, Janet Jones. Says, I spent my 20s in New York City, so I spent many hours and days in the old Chinatown buses going all over the Northeast. Your bus videos are nostalgia.
Yeah, I've heard about those buses, actually. I don't think they run them anymore, but I have heard that they are an experience, or they were an experience that kind of rivals Greyhound in terms of craziness.
Do you do the train as well, or just the buses and the airplanes?
I do quite a lot of trains. I like a nice train. I do like a nice train because I just love the fact that you can get on them. As if it's a sleeper train, you get on it, you fall asleep, and you wake up somewhere completely different. And I just find that so cool. Amtrak, I love, even though it's old, it's tired, it's battered, but it's fun. You get to see so much of the country. And it's the same if you go to sort of Eastern Europe and travel across like Kazakhstan and places like that. You just get to see so much of those places on a train that you'd never get to see from a plane, and it's great.
All right, let's get back to the super chat so I don't fall behind here. And Mike Newland with an awesome $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Mike. Says, Noel, what is your favorite destination to transit through? Transit through. I like Doha and Singapore. They're kind of my two go-to. Doha is nice because they've got a really nice transit hotel there and a really nice lounge as well. And you can get spa treatments, you can go in a hot tub, you can have massages and stuff all between your flights, which is just insane. Singapore is just like another level. It's just a crazy airport. You can do so much there as well. They've got like little outside areas and gardens you can go and sit in. Yeah, I love it. Really nice. How do you feel about LAX?
Well,
I had to ask since it's in the backyard.
It's a nice airport. No, I've flown through there a lot, and the thing I don't like, this is the issue with a lot of American airports, is they have this whole weird setup where every airline has their own terminal. JFK is the same, and you can't just get off one plane and get on another if you're changing airlines. You've got to end up getting trains or buses or walking between places. And the thing I really don't like about LAX, sorry, I'm gonna hate on LAX a little bit more here,
right.
is when you arrive and you want to get a bloody Uber and you can't get an Uber within LAX anymore. You've got to take a bus off the airport and then get your Uber from there. And I'm like, that's the whole point of Uber, is that they just come and pick you up. And it just drives me insane. That's why, you know, I think they say that if you get an Uber Black, they'll come and pick you up. It's like, okay, great. So I'll just spend an extra $100 or whatever and just get them to pick me up. I'm that lazy.
Yeah.
But I just hate the fact they make you get a bus off the airport. It's stupid. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, well, you know, they were the LA exit lot, basically where you get your Uber and your Lyft right now. That was actually going to be moved for the construction of Terminal 0. But now, in the last few weeks, they say we're not doing Terminal 0. So I'm not quite sure what the future is for the LA exit lot. It sounds like it was going to be moved, get this, even further to the east toward the parking garage. So you would have to actually jump on the people mover. I don't know if that's worse or better.
At least you can get on the people mover from within the terminal building, I suppose. You don't have to leave and then get on a bus. I think. Am I right in saying that? You can get on the train from within.
For the most part, you still have. It is still going to be a little walk.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of airports around the world have Ubers in a set place. You know, Houston does, even if you're flying here, but it just happens to be on a level of the parking garage, like at the back or something, where you go. And it works well. I don't know why they can't do that and just find somewhere within the airport that is easy to walk to, you know?
Yeah. So we're YouTubers. Everyone wants to be a YouTuber, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of hard work. I think people realize that, certainly months, years into it. Do you have any advice for maybe some YouTubers out there, or aspiring YouTubers that want to do the whole aviation YouTube? Any advice for them? Any warning at a time, maybe?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to think of plenty of warnings. Be prepared for it to take over your life is the main thing. So the one thing that I find when I watch so many YouTubers, especially coming up in this field, I get sent a lot. I'm sure you do. You get sent a lot of videos from people starting out their YouTube channels, and that's great. I love it. Love to see them. There's a few things that I see that I think, well, this person could do so much better at that, and I will give some of my tips, I guess, as I've done it. I mean, the main thing is you've got to carry on. You've got to stick at it. You can't put videos out and expect people to watch them straight away. That won't happen. You're going to have to release dozens of videos before people even start to pay attention to you and start to notice you and start to want to subscribe to you. That's the first thing. It's not a quick process, and unfortunately, if you don't just sit and keep like carrying on at doing it, you're not going to. You know, even I've released a couple of extra channels that I've started. One of them I carry on with. It's my flying channel. At one point, I started a drone channel years ago. And this was after I'd had success with the main channel. I was like, I want to expand a little bit and do something a little bit different. And I started a channel reviewing drones, believe it or not. And I'm guilty as everybody else. I started it and I tried it for weeks, and I thought, this is just ridiculous. Nobody's watching these videos. Nobody, and that even happened to me as a full-time YouTuber. So I know how difficult that is. But I think the other thing really is, when it comes to the actual videos themselves, they've got to have a story behind them. That is the key. And it took me so long to be able to figure that one out. And it's some advice that somebody gave me years ago. They said, you've got to have a story. And I'm like, how can I have a story? I'm just reviewing an airline. And they're like, but there is a story behind that. The story is, this is your reason for flying on this airline. And then you've got this whole arc of, just like making a movie, there's a whole character arc where you go through the challenges, and there's a setback, and then you carry on and you get a bit further on, and then you get the desired outcome at the end and everything. And you can apply that to everything. And if you think about it, kind of take a step back and think about it, you can do that with everything. My videos tend to have a bit of a story arc in them. There's the whole, here's the thing we're looking forward to at the end of the video, and then there'll be a setback. For example, with the Greyhound, the idea was I wanted to take a bus from New York to LA. Now, I didn't know when I filmed it what was going to happen, but then through the process of the filming and through the editing process as well, I managed to craft the whole story arc angle of it. We got so far, and then there's a setback. The bus gets cancelled or whatever, and then it's all happy again. Everybody's really happy and excited because it's all getting better and better. And then, oh no, the driver hasn't turned up again. And it just, keeping those things going, it keeps people hooked in, and that is what you have to do. And it's an art, it really is. And I'm still struggle with it even now.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, to go back to the Greyhound, I mean, obviously in the end, you can kind of go back and say, okay, this is how this is going to weave through this and that. But when you're out there shooting all that, are you in your head? Are you outlining everything? Are you saying, wait, I need something, I'm missing something here. This isn't going to work.
And
no.
I will tell you now, even on that Greyhound video, I got to the end of I got to LA and I got into the bus station and I was like, this video is terrible. I've not filmed anything like I want to film. I've not filmed everything. I've not filmed anything. Like, there's so much I wish I'd have filmed. I'm exhausted. I was just filming out of the way. I'm never going to make a good video out of this. And that's how, because you're in that mindset, you're so exhausted after filming it and you're just like, this is terrible. No one's ever going to watch this. And then like a few weeks later, you sit down and edit it. And I know it's going to be a decent video if I sit down and I find myself laughing at the video as I'm editing it. and that happens so much because you can then look at it with a fresh set of eyes. Yes. And then that's the set of eyes that everybody else is watching it with as well. And it's tough. I mean, I'm right now, like I mentioned to you earlier, I got back from this trip 2 days ago. I am jet lagged as hell. I've been up since 4 a.m. this morning. I am absolutely exhausted. And I'm looking back at the footage and I'm like, this is terrible. The bus video was dreadful. I mentioned it to you earlier. I don't think it was that good, but I know that when I come to do the edit, it will be. And like flying from the most southerly to northerly airports, that sounds really cool. But actually, I didn't really, the footage wasn't that great. Maybe I missed I don't know, maybe the camera packed up on takeoff from somewhere, or maybe I didn't catch a bit of that I wish I'd have caught or something like that. But that doesn't matter because when I come to do the edit, I will have forgotten all of that and I'll be in a fresh state of mind,
But I'm sure there's, in all these years, when you're editing, you're producing stuff, you're like, oh, I wish I would have grabbed a shot, or I need a shot of this, or would have done that. I'm sure you learn from the times where you're like, I should have grabbed that shot when I could kind of tell the story better. You kind of learn and you kind of grow from that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. You were asking me about the 747 this last week. We landed in Frankfurt on the 747 and it was crazy. They parked us on a remote stand over on the cargo ramp. The door had broken at the front of the plane, so they had the entire aircraft getting off the plane through the back doors. So everyone's just really angry. We get on this bus and they put everybody on one bus. We drive off and I turn off my camera on my backpack. I kid you not, 5 seconds later, the bus drove into the side of a cargo truck with everybody on it.
Wow.
And I'm like, damn it. Literally, I've missed that. I've literally just turned it off and I was gutted. Now, I managed to film everything that was going on around that. I managed to film the police turning up and like the damage to the bus and everything like that. Yeah. And from there on, so I know I can make something out of it, but I'm kicking myself that
Murphy's Law.
Flipped that camera off 5 seconds previously,
It happens. It happens to everyone, not just you. It's everyone. Yeah. Boy, oh boy, life of a YouTuber. All right, we're going to get back to the questions here real quick. Wilson with a $10 super chat. Thanks so much. Wilson says, yo, I love what you do and can't wait till we are back next to LAX. Well, I think Wilson's talking about us. Yes, we'll be back at LAX on Sunday. Wilson, thank you so much. Craig Russell with the $5 super chat. Thanks so much, Craig. Says, what was it like to fly 17 hours from London to Perth on Qantas Dreamliner? That must have been a long flight. By the way, thank you so much for your videos.
Oh, wow. Thank you for watching them for a start. I appreciate that. But the Qantas Dreamliner was that was the first of my really crazy trips that I did. And I hate it. I hate that video. I really do. It's the worst video I've ever made. What the story behind it was that Qantas had started their new flight from London to Perth. And at the time I was making these full flight videos, or as I call them now, the dull flight videos, because it was just 17 hours looking out of a plane window. Yeah. And that was the channel back then. And I'd got this idea in my head. I wanted to fly and film it and make a video of the world's second longest flight. And then just after that, I thought, well, I could link that in with the world's longest flight back from New Zealand, because I'd only got like 3 days off work. So I thought, well, I could go and do that and film it all and make it. And, maybe people would want to watch it. So I went and I filmed it, and it was all shot on my iPhone. So, and I'm on a plane with no external mic, so I'm like holding the camera like right in my face so that I could pick up my voice. It's dreadful. The quality of this video is awful. And I put it all together. I thought no one's ever going to watch this pile of rubbish. And I released it and went on holiday. And then like a few days into the holiday, my phone is blowing up, and I'm like, what on earth?
Wow.
And it had gone nuts. It had had like 700,000 views in the first couple of days or something. I was like, what on earth? And it's still one of my most popular videos, and I hate that video. I really do. It's just,
that is amazing, because I can sit here and probably say the exact same thing about any of my video or anything I've done in life. Anything that I'm very proud and I'm like, that's the best thing ever, gets the lowest views. And then the thing I'm just kind of like, it was okay, gets the highest views. Isn't that just, that's normal, right?
Man, I went to Nepal, and I took a blooming helicopter to Everest Base Camp in Nepal. I planned this all, like, it cost me thousands. I thought, this is going to be the most epic video I've ever done. I'm flying to Nepal, I'm getting on a helicopter, I'm going up this mountain pass, and then I was going to eat KFC on Everest Base Camp. That was kind of the premise of it. And
KFC?
I thought this, yeah, because I thought, well, all these people go hiking up Mount Everest and they don't get to eat decent food. They're all eating out of these little ration packs. So on the way to the airport, I called in and picked up a KFC, and I flew up on this helicopter. We went to Lukla, and then we landed up at 17,000 feet, and you're out of breath. And then the weather closes in, and it's an epic video as we're sliding down the mountain, trying not to crash into the side of a mountain. It's one of my proudest videos ever. And I released it, and nobody watched it. I was like, are you absolutely taking the mick? This is just incredible. Like, I mean, and yet another video that I'll do, just flying on a low-cost airline somewhere, will go crazy, and so many people will watch it. And you're like, what? How?
I mean, does that influence your decision on moving forward with what kind of projects you're going to work on in terms of video?
A little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. I mean, one thing I did learn a long time ago is that the things that I get excited about aren't necessarily the things that people want to see. It's just the way it is. You know, I will get really excited about flying on some certain random Russian plane somewhere that actually people don't really care about that. You know, or I don't know. I went to Portugal a few years ago, and I did some aerobatics in a plane. I thought that was really cool. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And yet, of course, nobody's interested in that, because it's just me enjoying myself, and it's people don't want to see me enjoying myself. People want to see something cool. And one of the golden rules I found really is, you've got to be, when you're making content, you've got to be, with this sort of content at least, you've got to be doing something that either nobody else can do because they can't afford it, it's so far out of their reach, they want to do it, but there's no way they can ever do it. Or you've got to be showing something that nobody on earth would ever want to do, like taking a Greyhound across America or whatever, you know. And it's got to be one of those, and that's what'll get people interested. And unfortunately, me having a good time somewhere isn't really going to make for a good video, which is fine.
I have a video idea for you.
Yeah,
take a metro city bus here in Los Angeles from the Valley to the South Bay. It may take you a whole day. And you may never, I mean, the things you see and the drama you might come across might make for a good video. What do you think?
Will I survive? That's the interesting thing. I've seen some of those areas of LA that bus will go through. Yes,
it's pretty crazy. All right, let's get back to the chat here real quick. Russell with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Russell. Says hi, Noel. It's Russell from Orlando. Let's go for another boat ride. Hope you're liking the hotels.
Russell. Yeah, Russell is Russell's a friend of ours actually, and he runs a boat company over in Orlando. And he goes right. It's like you get on this boat and they take you around all the celebrity houses and things like that. It's really, really nice. So if you're ever over in Orlando, and check them out.
Very nice. Hello, Russell. SWAT Cats. The $20 super chat says October 18th, 1928, here in the USA. Fred Lund in a sports Waco right engine makes first outside loop in a commercial airplane at Advanced Aircraft Test Field in Troy, in Ohio. You know, SWAT Cats gives us a lot of aviation history on a lot of our shows. You know, it is amazing, no matter what day, no matter of the week, there's always some aviation history, right?
Yeah.
Is there
cool, isn't it?
Any aviation history that comes to your mind that interests you for the most part? Wright brothers, the start of aviation?
Yeah, I tend to be fascinated by the things like the mail routes that they used to do over here. You know, where they use like the Pony Express, where they used to fly and they used to follow the arrows on the ground to get across the country. That sort of thing just fascinates me. Seeing like historical things that actually, at the time, were probably just part of day-to-day life, but now you look back at it and you're like, that is so cool. The golden age of airliners, of course, is just fascinates me as well. Just how at the time, you know, when obviously commercial air transport started off, thinking about that and how it grew from there to what it is now, it's just fascinating. You know, you go to Heathrow, for example, you look at a picture of it from 100 years ago, and then you look at it how it is now, and it's like worlds apart. Honestly, it fascinates me so much.
It's amazing. Amazing indeed. All right. Anna, the dispatcher, back with the $5 super chat. Thanks so much, Anna. Says, I spent 3 hours at LAX yesterday. It was so much fun to see all the lanes. Lanes. See, Anna loves LAX. All right. Good to see you, Anna. Thank you so much. Ian with the $5 super chat. Thanks so much. Ian says, hey, Noel, please don't go all fancy and first class like Jeb and Trek. Love what you do. Nice sprinkle in the fancy stuff, but better to see it all.
Yeah, and that's it, Ian. You're right. I have a dream, as somebody famous once said, that one day I'll just fly in first class all around the world.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I can't do that because it's not what I'm all about, and I like to keep it real, as it were.
Keep it real.
I like to mix in the low. I like to have the odd luxury flight, but I find that just doing them once in a while keeps me kind of based a little bit, and a little bit grounded is the word. I think, you know, it's nice to have a treat, but then it's nice to be able to fly in other ways and sort of be brought back down to earth a little bit, really, because then you appreciate it more. When you do get the luxury, you really appreciate it. If you do it all the time, you start kind of getting used to it, and I'm worried that that'll happen to me, and I don't want that to happen to me.
It makes sense. So if you're flying economy, are you aisle? No. Window, right?
Well, it depends. I mean, now if I'm filming, window, of course, because I need to film out the window. Right. But as I've got older and as I fly more, I'm becoming that aisle person more and more. And I like, if I'm not filming, you'll find me sitting on an aisle, because I like to be able to get up and down to the bathroom, because I'm getting old now, and obviously that becomes more of an issue when you get to a certain age. But also, I don't know. If I'm not sleeping, and if it's just like a 3-hour flight from Houston to LA or something, I'll be on the aisle every day. Honestly, it's just so much nicer just being able to get up and down and move around and stretch my legs. Whereas sometimes if I'm pending against the window, I don't get to do that. And also, it forces me to switch off and not keep pointing cameras out the window all the time, which I need.
Do you have a preference if you're just doing a short hop? Are you a 737 type of guy, or you prefer the A320 family?
I love a Max 8. You'll probably be surprised, because I said earlier I preferred the A350 to the 787, but I do like the Max 8s. They are nice planes. Well, the Maxes in general, and lovely planes to fly on. Some A320, like the A321 Neos, for instance, they're quite nice, the newer ones. But yeah, I do prefer a 737. It just feels a bit more stable and a bit more solid, you know? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
What about the A380? Haven't heard you talk anything about the A380.
Yeah, I like the A380. That's a nice plane to ride. You don't get to fly on them that much these days. The only issue is that it's difficult to be able to film out of the windows on an A380 because they've kind of got that between the inside and the outside. You've got like this much of a gap, and then your actual window is like tiny. So a lot of the time it's quite tricky. But I know they're nice planes to fly on. They really are. Just a shame that not many people fly them anymore, really. I remember the first time I flew on one of those, it was Air France, and I'd flown to Paris just to fly on the A380. And I remember, I don't know if you've ever, you'll know, you've seen movies before, like Airplane or any old film where they show a 747 and there's just like a hive of activity around it, and there's jet bridges is connected all over it and everything. And it's kind of like a magical thing to see. And I remember walking up to the A380 when I first flew on it, and it was just like that. There was just like 4 jet bridges, there were vans and vehicles around it, a whole commotion of activity. And it just felt really kind of nostalgic, even just seeing it in person at the time, you know.
Do you think the A380 is going to be around? In terms of, I've been saying for the longest time, I don't think the A380 is dead, even though they're not making them anymore. If they can find a new engine option for that, I feel like the need for the double decker, the amount of seats you can cram into that, I feel like there's still a need for that. Yes, it's a gas guzzler, but once they can figure that out, I think possibly, or do you think I'm just nuts?
No, I think you're right. There's certain markets that it will work really well in, and yeah, you still see them flying regularly. I was just in Joburg, and you see a lot of the European airlines fly the A380 down there because it's such a high capacity route. Europe to South Africa is such a high capacity route. They just managed to fill them. Other routes, it's like across the Atlantic, for instance. I don't think it's got a market there because people want regular flights with less people on them rather than just one flight a day, for instance, with hundreds on.
Right. Did you?
I think that's the problem. It's just got to get the right balance, really. Sorry.
Did you see the new livery Emirates came out?
Yeah,
today?
I like it. I like that.
Gorgeous?
Yeah, somebody sent that to me. Yeah, it's nice. I don't know. It looks almost like it's holographic in a way. The writing on it. Yeah, it's really, really cool. I like that.
Of course, that's partnership with the NBA. We should. I'm sure the first question a lot of you guys are saying, will we see this in Los Angeles? I do believe this aircraft will be here in Los Angeles. So we should hopefully see this soon. And boy, that'll be an eye catcher. I mean, the blue, it looks amazing. I mean, it's almost like the shade of blue that ITA has.
Yeah, it is, isn't it, actually? On their Neos and stuff. Yeah, I think it's a gorgeous livery, that is. I wonder if it's like metallic or anything. It kind of looks a little bit metallic.
Apparently, this is not a decal, so this is full-on paint job. So we'll have to get a good look at it when it arrives here in Los Angeles, hopefully soon.
For sure.
Jimmy, with a $5 super chat, thanks so much, Jimmy. Says Noel, video idea, 20-minute flight from Trinidad to Tobago, Caribbean Airlines ATR 72. What do you think?
Nice, yeah. I like that idea. I need to do a lot more in the Caribbean because there's so many cool little airlines there. That's one of the ones I'd really like to do. I'd like to get on those Fokker 70s at some point across the Curacao, is it? They fly them out of there. Fly Always fly them, who I tried to fly on before, and they cancelled my flight. But they operate the Fokker 70s. There's airlines flying. I think there's an airline somewhere flying a Shorts 360 still over there. Yeah. I believe, and they've got like the Embraer 110s flying around and stuff like that in different parts of the Caribbean. So yeah, it's definitely somewhere I need to spend a bit more time and kind of look into what there is to do there, because I think we could make a big trip out of that.
St. Martin?
Yeah, I've been to St. Martin.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I went in 2020. It was weird because it was kind of during like that weird bit where the pandemic kind of eased off a little bit and everybody could travel again. And still there weren't many flights. And I went to St. Martin, and I think there were 2 or 3 flights a day into St. Martin over the beach. And that was it. That was literally all there was, which was a bit of a shame. I went to St. Bart's while I was there. That was cool.
Yeah.
And flew on a twin otter down the hill into St. Bart's. That's amazing fun. So yeah, it's cool over there.
Tampa Dan. Hello, Dan, with the $5 super chat to say, Noel, sometimes you really push the limits. What would be some of your showstoppers? Where you're just like, I ain't gonna happen. No way. This is where I draw the line. Anything that come to your mind?
I think in terms of aviation, not so much, because everything's pretty cool. I think there's a lot of things I perhaps wouldn't do, like some of these Indian trains that the vloggers like doing, where they get on it and there's like 50 people crammed in a little compartment and stuff. I could never do that. No way. Just my anxiety will be through the roof. I did one Indian train once, and I had my own room, and everybody hated on me in the comments for it so much. They were like, but you've had your own room, you should have been down with everybody else. And I'm like, no, that's not me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's just things like that. Just I don't know. I have limits where I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that.
Is it more just your personal safety, or is it, I mean, obviously you were talking about you've gotten sick 3 times this year. it just, you have to be careful, right?
Yeah, there's that as well. It's there's that, but I think I value my sleep too much, and if I don't have enough sleep, I'm just horrible. I'm just so grumpy.
Yeah.
It's unreal, and I need a good night's sleep. And I don't think I'd ever feel comfortable sleeping on anything like that because it's just so many people, you know. I just like to lock my door and be private and be on my own. And that's the one luxury I have doing this, is that I get to where I'm going at the end of a video, and I go into a hotel and I shut the door, stick on the do not disturb thing, and I just veg and chill. And it's the one thing I look forward to at the end of every day, is just that silence as I'm just sitting on a bed, just relaxing, you know. And if I don't get that, I think with some of these trains and things, it will just put me over the limit. It's too much for me. I just wouldn't be able to handle it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It totally makes total sense. Danny, super chat. Thanks so much, Danny. Says, Noel, are you going to do the Iberia A321 XLR first flight to Boston?
Ooh.
Do you do those inaugural flights?
I do sometimes. I do. So it depends on the airline, really. Some of them I like to wait a few days after it's started because I don't know. I just, again, for a start, you don't get the true experience when you do the first flight, and for the second part, it's kind of, the plane's just generally full of people taking pictures and everything, and it's just always feels a little bit sort of weird. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I like to wait for it to actually generally just start. It's cool if I do end up on inaugural flights. They're always pretty nice to go on, but yeah, I try not to necessarily do them. I was booked on the inaugural Greenland flight from Nuuk to Iqaluit, believe it or not, this year. It's part of a video. Again, it was when I got pneumonia, so I couldn't film it, but I was going to fly across the Atlantic using only turboprops. And it was this whole video idea. I got it all planned out. I was going from Norway to the Faroe Islands to Iceland to Greenland to Canada and then down to Toronto and then across to New York. And just like a week before, I ended up getting pneumonia.
Boy.
Yeah, that got scratched on the head. But I've still got the flights booked across Greenland and everything. They sort of postponed them until next year. So I'm hopefully going back to do them at some point. So you never know. That might be soon.
Yeah. David, Super Chats has been watching Noel since the in-flight days. Funniest one was an Aberdeen to Heathrow with no commentary and a very confused-looking woman sitting next to him. Oh, is there backstory to this?
Oh, you know, well, that was just the norm. I think many people were confused when I was just sticking a camera to the window and just filming an entire flight. And yeah, I don't know why. I had it in my head at the time. I started making vloggy type videos without me talking originally, and I just love like the takeoff and then the food and then the landing, and I eventually started just filming more and more of these flights to the point where I pretty much got a camera glued to the window. So I ended up just sticking a GoPro to the window so that in my head people could sit and experience flights in real time and just have them on in the background while they're working or whatever. And in my head, that was a solid. This is a good example for people actually who are starting YouTube channels. In my head, I thought this was a brilliant idea. Everybody's going to want to see that. Well, surely, there's such a gap in the market for that. Nobody's ever done that before. I'm making a new sort of niche here. It's all going to go really well. And I sort of got stuck in that mindset, and I made those videos for years. I really did, and it was just. I look back at it now, and I'm like, why on earth? What was I thinking? You know, the videos are still on there, and I've actually put them on a Vimeo site because they're all in like 4K quality. So if you really do want to go and sit and watch a 13-hour flight in real time, well, they're all on there. But I don't know. I don't get it now. I look back and I cringe a bit because I'm like, why was I ever thinking that would be?
How long ago was that?
I started doing those in 2014 or so, 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And then that went right the way through to kind of 2018. And actually, there was a moment, we became very close to losing the whole YouTube channel because I don't know what happened, but YouTube took the channel down in 2017 or 2018. And we had an email saying your channel's been removed because of like repetitive content or something, because we've got all these like videos on them, and somehow they removed the channel, and we appealed it, and thankfully we got the channel back. But that was kind of a catalyst for me to go, you know what, actually maybe we do need to focus on doing something else. And we've had this success at this point with the Qantas video over to Australia and New Zealand that I was telling you about. So we'd had that success. I thought, well, maybe there is a kind of a market for people to see my ugly face on YouTube and make videos, and that's kind of what pushed me into this line of doing these sorts of videos. And I'm glad I did. It's just been so incredible for me to be able to experience all of this. So,
you've heard about IRL, right? In real life, live videos. Any IRL videos for you, live streaming while you're on some of these trips, so people can see what you're doing live?
Oh gosh, yeah, I've thought about doing that before. I really have, but then I've just worried that, like, I don't know. Sometimes I can get really grumpy when I'm making videos, especially when I'm exhausted. So I'm just worried that something would happen, and then I'd end up making a fool of myself on the live. I don't know, something like, I don't know. Maybe we'd do that at some point. I think I did when I was doing the in-flight video stuff. I used to go live all the time. But again, you've got to be careful because you're catching people in the videos and stuff that might not necessarily want to be on video.
Right.
You've got to be so careful. There was a time when I used to live stream the takeoffs and the landings of the planes. Now, at the time when there was a small channel, that was okay. You'd got like maybe 20 people watching it. That's fine. But if I was to do something like that now, full well that there's going to be so many people watching, and then you end up getting in trouble because you're not supposed to be filming while during the takeoff and landing and all the rest of it. And
right.
I don't know. It's just, obviously with Wi-Fi and stuff on the planes, you could probably do that now. But at the time, it's a bit dodgy, and yeah.
I mean, as years goes on, you're pretty popular. Do you get a lot of people on the flights or in the airport saying, "I know who you are. I know what you're doing"?
Often now. It's scary.
No?
It's scary, yeah. It really is scary, and it was weird. When we lived in the UK, we got to the point where people were stopping me in Tesco in the supermarket and going, "I love your videos," which was just crazy. Like, I was getting to the point where even outside of airports, I was getting recognised, and that was just before we moved. And it was great here when we first moved over because nobody knew me at all over here, so we could just go and not have to worry about all of that. Uh-huh. But now, as it goes on, like the other week, we went into HEB, which is a supermarket here in Texas. And a guy came up to me and was like, "I love your videos, man." And I'm like, "Oh Lord, here we go." It starts again, even over here now. And it's crazy. Like today, even today, I flew over to Waco. I just took the little plane over to Waco, just to go and have a coffee. Really, I just fancied flying. So I've been on this trip, and I thought, you know what, let's go and get in the plane for a bit. Uh-huh. I landed at Waco, and the ramper came over to put the chocks under the wheels. He's like, "I know you. You're the guy off of YouTube, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah."
Nice.
So yeah, crazy.
Trading cards. You got to get some trading cards. Start handing out your cards.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel when people? I was at CVS yesterday picking up some medication. I'm standing in line picking up medication at CVS, and these two girls walk by and they go, "Oh, there he is." I said, "Oh yeah, there he is," and they knew exactly who I was. I'm just out picking up medication. I mean, how does that? Wow. To me, I feel like I'm just a normal person. It's not a big deal. Is that where your kind of mindset is as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I don't know. In my mind, I'm just me, and I just do what I enjoy doing. I've got a family. I get in trouble with the wife half the time. We have we have problems with the kids because we're just a normal family. That's the thing. We just live our normal lives. I'll finish this call in a little bit, and we'll go and sit and watch TV for a bit and just have a beer and just relax, just like anybody else would, and that it doesn't feel that. Do you know what I mean? So when you go out and then people come up and they love what you do, and people tend to idolize you, and I've had people follow me. I've been someplace where people have followed me around because they just want to be with me.
Right.
And it's just crazy how it gets to that point. I'm like, I'm just a guy who makes videos. That's all I do. And I don't know, in my head, I'm still just that guy who flies on planes, and it's crazy. I can't imagine how it must be for people who are actually famous, for like movie stars and things like that. How can they live? Like, even they wouldn't even be able to go to the store without having people following them around. And I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to cope if that was me. But yeah.
Tom with a super chat says, hi, Noel. What is the best advice to get over jet lag? Greetings from Holland. Keep up the good work.
Oh, wow. Holland. God, it's got to be like 3 o'clock in the morning there right now.
Oh, my gosh,
wow.
You're right.
Yeah, but thank you for staying up to watch this anyway. Jet lag. I don't know whether I have any tips for jet lag, to be honest. Personally, I just tend to push on through and I just carry on. Right now, I'm totally jet lagged. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, as I said, because I'm still on Africa time. And I'm just, I don't really, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing I do is just let my body do what it wants to do. And if I want to fall asleep and have a nap, I'll do that. I probably will be in bed at about 8 o'clock tonight, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. I'll take a few days before I get back to being on American time again. And yeah, that's really all you can do is just, a lot of the time when I fly, it's weird. I'll go to Australia, for example, and they're like crazy. From America, they're like 18 hours time difference or something like that. And I end up just staying on American time, and I just end up staying awake through the night and then sleeping in the day. And that tends to help me sometimes, but that's obviously okay to do if I'm doing this. But if you're just on vacation, it's not very fun vacation if you're sleeping in the day, is it? So it's
right. Well, I mean, you've had a long day, still recovering from jet lag and all that. So I don't want to hold you up anymore. I mean, we've been going almost an hour and a half. So I don't want to ruin your whole Friday evening with the family. I want to say thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And hopefully one day I'll be at LAX with you and join you over there. That would be nice. Yeah.
You know what? I mean, there's a thought in my head. Could I join you on one of those Greyhound tours? A Greyhound.
You really want to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a thought in my head, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe you can talk me out of it. I don't know. What do you think?
We can do something cool. No, we can do something cool together. Absolutely. I've got a lot of time now in the US because with our visas, we've kind of got in this position where we're stuck here for 6 months once it all goes through because we have to wait for them to do different bits and pieces. So I will be doing a lot of US stuff. So yeah, who knows? We could do something really cool.
Perfect. And if anybody tuning in, let us know where we can find your YouTube channel. What is the name of the YouTube channel?
It's just my name, Noel Philips. So it's at Noel Philips on YouTube with 1 L. And you'll come across my videos and you'll see me whinging and moaning my way around the world.
When's the next video come out? When do you release on the same day every week?
Every Sunday at
Sunday, okay.
8 o'clock in the morning Central Time. So yeah, this is 6 a.m. your time. And this week's video is I am comparing business class on a domestic flight in the US and in Europe to show the differences between the two.
Very nice.
That's this week's video. And then after that, I don't know, because honestly, I've got so many videos and I don't even know what I'm going to put where. So.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Called On the Fly. On the Fly. That's amazing.
Pretty much.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. This was a lot of fun. Please get some rest. Please take care of yourself. We know the grind all too well. Have fun with the family. Again, Noel, thanks for joining us here today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. Excellent. All right. Go check them out. Thanks you guys for tuning in here today. Of course, we'll be back on Sunday for the big Sunday show back at Imperial Hill. Rudy will be joining me running the camera as I'm still dealing with the arm. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are asking, how is that arm? I did go up for a checkup this week. No more slings. You will not see me with the sling on Sunday. But I do need to move the arm. So more than likely, if you guys are watching behind the scenes on Sunday, you'll probably see me moving the arm all over the place. But all is good. The x-ray looked great. Checkup looked great. So your plane Jockey Kevin is well on its way to recovery. And hopefully I'll be running the camera once again here soon. All right. Thanks you guys for tuning in. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you back for Sunday's big Sunday show. All right, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.